The sermon today is titled, Your Higher Self. The scripture is Matthew 6, verses 31 through 34 from the Lamsa edition of the Bible. Therefore, do not worry or say, what will we eat, or what will we drink, or with what will we be clothed? For worldly people seek after all these things. Your Father in heaven knows that all of these things are also necessary for you. But seek first the kingdom of God and his righteousness, and all these things shall be added to you. Therefore, do not worry about tomorrow, for tomorrow will look after itself. Sufficient for each day is its own trouble. So ends the reading. As metaphysicians, we believe that we are part of universal intelligence, an energy that encompasses everything. We believe we have access to this intelligence and can utilize it for our own good. We also know that quite often, in our human condition, when encountering the normal stresses in our daily lives, we don't feel connected to this universal intelligence or universal energy. We can feel at times that we are very much on our own. A key to understanding our relationship to the universe is the premise that we are part of the whole. Just as a drop of water in the ocean is a part of the ocean and has every characteristic of the larger whole, our consciousness is part of the universal consciousness and has every characteristic of the larger whole. Included in universal consciousness is infinite intelligence, all of the knowledge, all of the possible thought patterns, feelings, emotions, and stresses that exist. Our intention in studying metaphysics and observing the universe is to learn how to sort out, distinguish, and use the energies that improve our lives. We strive to learn to access and use those energies, those vibrations that inspire us, and are useful in creating a fulfilling, peaceful, and meaningful life. How might we begin to understand the myriad of options that are available to us in the vast universe? And how can we learn to access the energies that are uniquely advantageous to our own individual growth? A few weeks ago, I watched a television interview with Emmanuel Ocho, a retired professional football player. One of his philosophies is, you don't have to go looking for your calling. Your calling will find you. The only question is, will you answer the call? What is a calling? Does a person wake up one day and a clear vision of their life's path materialize? Most of us have not had that experience. Ocho's premise is that we regularly have opportunities presented to us. The question is, are we present and alert enough to recognize opportunities and accept them when they are presented? Another way of stating this is the old axiom, luck is when preparation meets opportunity. At any time in our lives, there are choices and opportunities available to us. How prepared we are, mentally and emotionally, is a major factor in determining our ability to recognize and make good choices. Our situations at home, our self-confidence, our health, and many other issues directly affect our experience of the present and our ability to make wise decisions. We could use any span of time in our lives, but today let's use high school as an analogy. Everyone who attended your high school had that high school in common. The principal, the teachers, the students, and all the staff that made the school run were part of your high school universe. There were people who participated in as many activities as possible, and there were those who kept to themselves. But everyone was part of the high school environment, and they could decide what they were going to do with the opportunities available to them during those 4 years. Reflecting on periods in our lives, it is natural to wonder what we could have done differently and what the effects on our lives would have been. Many of us just wanted to get out of high school and had the expectation that things will be better when I am in college, or when I'm 21, or when I have a job. It can be very easy to miss the opportunities available to us today by looking to the future. You are a different person today than you were as a freshman in high school. You have years of life experience. Are you still waiting for an event to happen before you will be ready to make your next step? An America's Got Talent finalist from last year Jane Marczewski, who had to withdraw from the competition because of cancer, recently passed. Last year on the show, she said, "You can't wait until life isn't hard anymore before you decide to be happy." Have you decided to be happy? Looking back on your life, what advice would you give your younger self? Even more importantly, in your present situation, what advice would you give yourself now? How can you utilize your life experience to make better decisions today? In the book, Edgar Cayce on Channeling Your Higher Self, the author Henry Reed discusses touching in with what inspires us. He draws some important distinctions between information that is out there, outside of us, and information that is a knowing from inside, from our higher selves. He cautions that when we channel from outside ourselves, we open ourselves to many energies that can have undesired effects. Cayce contends that by going within, each of us can communicate with our higher consciousness, our higher self, for insight that is not skewed by our day-to-day focus on the immediate needs in our lives, or by the many events and energies outside of ourselves. Cayce advised on ways to access our higher selves, and he urged us to channel our highest ideals and inspirations into our daily lives, and to be willing to experience information passed from one realm to another. Henry Reed draws on Cayce's teachings and principles to demonstrate how we can reach our higher selves and understand the nature of our subconscious and superconscious minds, and how the untapped power of our souls, our higher selves, can impact our daily decisions. Each of us is constantly presented with choices and options that we can decide to pursue, not to pursue, or just ignore. Let's assume you are looking at the next 4 years in your life. Just as in high school or college, or starting your career, or beginning a new relationship, you have options and choices available to you today. What options should you choose? Cayce suggests that you can tune into your higher self and utilize your conscious, subconscious, and superconscious minds to make informed, inspired choices. A woman once asked Cayce about an upsetting experience she had while meditating upon a point of light just above her head. In her meditation, she had something like an out-of-body experience where she found herself suspended at a great height up in the sky. The experience frightened her, and she was hesitant to meditate again. Why would she meditate on a point above her head? It seems natural for us, when thinking about sources of higher consciousness, to visualize these sources as existing above us or outside of us. Slightly above and beyond the head is where many people experience a voice of inspiration, where they sense or intuit communication, or feel the presence of their higher self. In response to the person's question, Cayce answered that the experience arose from her intention to focus on something beyond or outside of herself. He reminded her that God isn't above us, but within us. In meditation, we can become in tune with an awareness that is within us. Cayce advises us to raise the consciousness within the self, and then the higher self, or God, meets us there. It's fascinating to grapple with the apparent contradiction. Try to imagine both raising your awareness as you also direct your consciousness within. Don't go outside of yourself. Stay within, but raise your consciousness. What does it mean to go within? The first thing is that rather than having your eyes, your attention look outward, turn your attention inward. Turn your attention inward to thoughts and feelings. As you do so, notice that there's a tendency to be still, to be quiet. Now you seem to be listening within. You're feeling your way within, and your awareness is no longer focused in your head, but all through the upper torso. Some people describe it as seeing within the heart. You have focused your attention inward. Now, how do you raise your consciousness? Your first tendency is to move to the top of your skull. But if you do, you will find it's not long before your consciousness is rising up outside of your head and you are no longer within yourself. Returning within, try another approach. Becoming silent, you will find that being quiet feels lighter than thinking about worries, which feel heavier. We are using terms of psychic awareness, in which vibrations are described as higher, lower, lighter, denser, subtle, coarse, etc. Follow the path of calmness. Look inside yourself in search of higher vibrations. This is a path to raising your consciousness. As you ease back behind your thoughts in search of further silence, begin to sense the presence of the background awareness, the silent witness. It feels very, very light. Sense the subtle levels of awareness within it. It's an intuitive space, a very enormous universe within. Within this spacious awareness, there arises a possibility for raising your consciousness without going outside of yourself. Using meditation and prayer, we can seek answers from within. This ability is simply an extension of the fact that when we're calm, we can think more clearly. As we move more deeply into meditative awareness, that clarity becomes a source of greater intelligence. We start with the premise that we can access our higher selves by directing our consciousness within. Now, we want to direct all levels of our consciousness to a specific matter or intention. Utilizing the law of attraction, that we attract what we think about, we can intentionally direct our consciousness. We have heard the adage, the Lord helps those who help themselves. Casey's views on consciousness help simplify a way of understanding consciousness and helping ourselves. Casey summarizes our levels of consciousness as 1, our waking conscious state, 2, our subconscious, and 3, our superconscious. In Casey's model of the mind, the conscious mind is the lowest form of mind. It has a sharp sensory focus for detail like a mouse, but lacks the far-seeing vision of the eagle. Through the conscious mind, each of us appears distinctly separate from each other. Just looking around the chapel, we appear as totally separate from each other. The mind does have its eagle, though. It's not the conscious mind, but what Casey calls the superconscious mind. The superconscious mind could also be considered the universal mind, or infinite intelligence, that we are all part of. Between the conscious mind and the superconscious mind lies the region of the subconscious mind. The conscious mind is a channel of sensory information. It gets its knowledge from outside the person. The subconscious mind is a channel of telepathic information. It gets its information from other people's thoughts and experiences. We each have our own portion of the subconscious mind, but there are no boundaries between people in the region of the subconscious mind. The superconscious mind is a channel of clairvoyance or universal knowledge. It gets its information directly from the oneness of all life, the universal consciousness that is in each of us. To engage all the levels of consciousness, Casey suggests that you consider an issue, a desire, or a question, and then work out what you believe is the best solution to the issue. Contemplating the situation, and even better, documenting your thoughts will kickstart the guidance received. This process brings your conscious and subconscious awareness to the issue. An example of this technique might be used when considering a new job or a new relationship. Casey cautions that a decision should include your highest ideals and highest expectations of any job position and/or any relationship. When you have seriously considered what would meet your highest ideals and what would feed your soul, then a job position or a personal relationship can be observed from a larger perspective. The conscious mind tends to focus on the immediate facts and emotions that are in front of you. Because you are already drawing upon your conscious and subconscious resources by thinking and writing, it is easier to access the superconscious, the higher self. I was talking to a good friend a few weeks ago. He has health issues that are progressively debilitating. He told me, if there is one thing I wish I had done differently, I wish I had been a kinder person. My response was that he was one of the kindest people I know. His reply, I could have done more. Being kinder is a good example of an inspired ideal. Your highest ideals might be accessed by inquiring, what are the best use of your skills? How can I contribute to the greater good in this job or relationship? Or how can I be a kinder and more loving person? After working on an ideal you would like to consider, Casey suggests there are many ways to access the higher self. Art, music, nature, dream work, meditation, and inspirational writing are some of the avenues we could use. Here is an example Casey suggests that incorporates meditation and inspirational writing. First, work out a solution to your question or issue that conforms to your highest understanding and desires. Documenting your question and solution is strongly suggested. In meditation, you would contemplate the same issue. Your mind will wander during meditation on a subject, but gently bring your attention back to your intent, your ideal or question that you have documented. I personally like to set a timer so I don't need to continue wondering how much longer I am going to meditate. When the timer goes off, remaining in the meditative state, start writing. You are still in a meditative state, accessing all levels of consciousness, your conscious mind, your subconscious, and your superconscious. This is very important. Don't judge what you are writing. You might start by just writing one word multiple times. You might write a series of unrelated thoughts. Trust, have faith that you can access the wisdom of the superconscious that can be clouded by our conscious, highly focused mind. This technique produces clarity in our decision making. It takes practice. I have seen success using the technique and teaching the technique to others. Remember, luck is when preparation meets opportunity. Opportunities present themselves every day. By preparing yourself and directing your attention to your highest ideals, you can recognize opportunities that are in line with your aspirations. In the Christian calendar, there are two periods of the year, the Lenten season before Easter and the Advent season before Christmas, that are designated as times of the year to focus on our individual spiritual growth. Ash Wednesday is this week. It is the beginning of Lent, the 40 days, not including Sundays, that precede Easter. According to the Gospels of Matthew, Mark, and Luke, before beginning his public ministry, Jesus spent 40 days fasting in the desert. Lent is a solemn observance of his time spent in the desert. People observe Lent in many ways. You might stop drinking sodas or alcohol. You might throw away one old item every day. You might fast one day a week. In this Lenten season, you could make a commitment to meditating and journaling on your highest ideals. With reflection and preparation, we can attune ourselves to our highest inspired ideals. When opportunities present themselves, we can intuit if they are in line with our higher selves. We answer our calling when we recognize those opportunities and we act on them. I will end with a quote paraphrased from Edgar Casey, 262-3. Not my will, but thine, O Lord, be done in and through me. Let me be a channel of blessings in every way with those whom I interact. Let my going in and my coming out be in accord with what thou would have me do. And as the call comes, here I am. Send me, use me. Blessings.